Due to their extreme popularity and mass market availability, Logitech sim racing wheels are often modified, upgraded, or whatever you want to call it to simply make them better while maintaining costs relatively low. Time and time again I've heard of these mods, but I've never really bothered to look into them. However, when 3D Rep, a company that makes mods for various sim racing products, reached out and offered to send me some, I couldn't resist. As a result, today I'll be looking at and giving my thoughts on 3 individual modifications for the Logitech G series wheels: a formula style wheel rim add-on, a magnetic paddle shifter attachment, and a mod to improve the feel of the brake pedal. In this video, I'm not going to show the installation simply because filming while trying to put something together makes it a lot more difficult and time consuming. Regardless, 3D Rep has videos here on YouTube explaining how to install everything if you're curious. In general, the mods were fairly straightforward to install, although I did struggle more than I would have liked when inserting the brake mod because there are so many little screws and things to watch out for. Let's start by talking about the GT wheel rim. There are many things I like about it, although there are some notable drawbacks which I will mention. Starting with the things I like, this wheel rim looks seriously cool. It's made from real carbon fiber which glistens under light, and its handles are covered in hand-stitched Alcantara. In terms of its diameter, it's almost identical to the default Logitech wheel, so everything felt natural in that regard. Moreover, the shape and thickness of the handles are comfortable, although I do wish it was just a little bit thicker. Before I forget, I know some of you are probably wondering about the light blue R3 and L3 buttons and why they aren't on my wheel. So as you can see, this center hub, which connects the wheel rim onto my G29, causes the wheel to be further away from the wheelbase since it can't sit directly flush onto the base. As a result, 3D Rep includes some longer L3 and R3 buttons so that you are able to access those buttons when in game. Since I received these products for review, I'm assuming they forgot to send me some and I didn't bother to ask for them since I don't really use them anyways. But if you do end up purchasing this wheel, you should receive those extended light blue buttons along with this wheel rim. Hopefully that made sense. Something else that came included, which I found very cool, was this sticker sheet. This allows you to further customize the wheel rim and make it look just a little bit more aggressive and realistic. In game I had a blast. Even though the wheel rim sits further away from the base than usual, I was still able to comfortably reach the paddle shifters, although I could see this being a problem for children with smaller hands. Since I mainly race GT3 cars, using a GT style wheel rim also added to not only the immersion, but the fun factor as well. Something about its overall shape and feel just made the experience a lot more enjoyable and realistic in a cool way. In terms of any drawbacks, there are a few things I was not too fond of. Since this wheel rim doesn't sit flush with the G29 base, not only does it look a tad strange, but it also deems the red dial useless, or at least more useless than usual, as it's almost impossible to reach it when racing in game and needing to precisely move it. It also made it a lot trickier to reach the D-pad and the rest on the buttons on the wheel since they are further away. I also noticed some subtle flex on the wheel's faceplate when pressing down the paddle shifters. This surprised me at first, but the carbon fiber sheet is quite thin, which probably causes this to happen. Ultimately not a big deal, and it's not very noticeable unless you're paying attention to it, but it's important to note nonetheless. The third and final thing I didn't totally like was the overall quality of the stitching. Upon inspection, you can notice a few inconsistencies in the thickness of the stitching, and it's a little thinner or thicker throughout. Since it's hand stitched, I guess it's kind of expected, but I did ultimately notice it. Before I give my final thoughts on this wheel rim, let's talk about the other mods I've received and installed. The magnetic paddle shifter add-on definitely lived up to the hype. It's a relatively simple mod that connects behind the paddle shifters and uses magnets to provide a more tactile feel when going through the gears. I don't really know how to explain it, but it does just that. It transformed the springy feel of the Logitech paddle shifters to a more direct experience. The shifting felt quicker, more realistic, and most importantly for me, incredibly satisfying to press down. I've never used those insane top-of-the-line sim racing wheels which retail for crazy prices, but this is exactly what I'd imagine the paddle shifters feel like on those. The pedal mod also provided an impressive experience. Although installing the mod was a hassle due to the nature of Logitech's pedals, after I had everything set to go, they felt very similar to the G920 pedals in the sense of their resistance and progressive travel. This mod seemingly removed the stiff feel of the brake pedal and gave me a very positive experience. If you have a Logitech G29 or G920 and dislike the pedals but don't want to spend hundreds on a proper loud cell pedal set, this relatively inexpensive mod could be a safe bet. I'm not saying it's a proper alternative to loud cell pedals, but it does improve the overall feel of the brake pedal for a relatively low price. In essence, the 3 mods I was able to check out impressed me. They did what they promised, they improved the in-game experience, and made my G29 look and feel a whole lot better. Ultimately, however, these mods are not necessary, and I don't really see how they can make you faster in-game. But for those of you who value immersion and the overall look of your setup, these mods could be for you. As always, thank you all for watching, stay safe, and have a fantastic rest of your day.